In this video, we're going to discuss how to read XML data from a data file into Python. For the purposes of this video, we'll take a look at this data file, which has XML data in it. The XML data has a data tag as its root, and then it has product tags as child tags. There are 3 of those instances inside of the data tag. And then each of the product tags has a collection of tags that are essentially attributes that describe a product. So we have the quantity, the manufacturer, price, and then we have a collection of sellers. So our goal is to be able to read that type of data into Python. So in order to do that in Python, you're going to need to import a module. The module is the xml.xtree module. It will allow you to parse the data file and it will also allow you to create XML data, and you can even edit XML data with it as well. So we're going to rename this as product tree, so that way we can use it inside of our program and not have to repeat all of that information. So we're going to have product tree, which is going to be a variable to store the entire XML tree. We'll now refer back to our module, which is product tree, and the method that we want to access is parse, which is going to allow us to parse the data file. So we're going to process our data file that I just showed you, and once we do that, we're going to extract the root from that tree, just to show you some of the power of this API. So this will extract the root, and we want to take a look at it and verify that it is actually the root tag. So I'll use a print, and I will output the value of that tag. So let's take a look at our result, and we see data. And if we go back and look at our file, we'll see that the root tag is indeed data. So our next task is to be able to process the children of the root tag, because that gives us access to the rest of the data that's in the XML data file. And to do that, we're going to take advantage of the for loop. So we're going to have a control variable called aProduct, and it's going to iterate over our collection of products, which is in prod root. So aProduct is going to represent each individual product as it visits them within the XML data tree. So let's print that information out as a verification step. We're going to use .tag on aProduct. That will give us a tag name, just like we saw before. But then there's other attributes of XML tags or XML objects that we can access, and one of those is called attrib. Attrib gives us the attributes within a particular tag. So let's take a look at what this gives us. So we can see, if we compare this with our data file, we can see that product is the name of the tag. That's what we see here. And then the attribute is what's embedded inside of the tag. And the attribute is name and the actual string that is represented there. And that's for each one of the 3 products that's in our data. So how do we get access to the other tags that are the attributes of the products? Well, those are children also. And so just like we use a for loop to access the children of the root, we can use a for loop to access the children of those other attributes as well. So we'll do that with another for loop. So we nest the second for loop inside of our first one. But here we are using a collection of a product. And so when we look back at our XML data, what's happening here is that we're viewing all of these XML tags as children of the product tag, and so that we're viewing those as a collection, just like we did before. The difference here, though, is that we want to output the data differently depending on what kind of tag we see. If we see a seller tag, we want to output the tag as well as the attribute. So if we look at our seller tags have the tag name, which is seller, and then it has an attribute or a set of attributes. We want to output that. Versus if it's not a seller tag, let's say it's a manufacturer tag, then we want to output this text, this XYZ that's in the first product. So that is using the .text data member of attribute. So we use if statements to determine which tag we're looking at. If the attribute .tag is the seller, then we're outputting it with the tag and attribute. If the attribute tag is not the seller, then we want the tag and the associated text. So now what we get is output, where we can see the quantity, our manufacturer and price for each product, and then we can see that it prints out sellers in a different format because it's printing out the tag and attribute. If you wanted to further indent seller like we've done with product and so forth, then you could do another nested loop inside of this condition to further break this down. This concludes the video on how to process XML files using the xml.xtree.elementtree module.